introduction of 4G is obviously going to require a much greater number of sites than we have now. We're going to need more spots on the Earth radiating energy in order to get the coverage and capacity that we all want. Just by way of a little bit of background, when we talk about 4G, we're talking usually with the carriers that are deploying now, some kind of an overlay type of topology. They're going in and putting additional equipment or additional antennas on sites. It's not necessarily a replacement. A naive person not familiar with the industry might think you go in and you take one antenna down and you can do a one-for-one swap. In some technologies you can, and others you're going to replace antennas or add antennas. And certainly with the high-speed nature of 4G, the requirements for backhaul and microwave backhaul have really risen. So we're adding more stuff to these sites as we go forward.
Certainly, none of the carriers obviously want to have to relocate any of their equipment to somewhere else, nor do they want to have to be building two sites for one. But at the same time, they are able to be a lot more flexible than even 5 years ago in their design. So if they run into a tower company that they view as unreasonable in their negotiations, then yes, they will design a solution around that. And that may be not rolling that technology out on that particular tower. They may be able to cover that area with multiple other sites or just redesign how they're going to deploy 4G.
Carrier leases are an asset, and it's incumbent upon us as being part of the tower industry to make sure that that asset stays in place. We need to make sure that the carriers are being kept happy, that they have a cell site that does exactly what they intended to do. It doesn't make a lot of sense for a carrier to have a tower site that has limitations. That's why we've always believed in building high-capacity towers that have the ability to give the system operators the flexibility of putting on that site really whatever they feel they're going to need presently and in the near future.
In my mind, there's three types of leases. One is you can lease space on an existing structure owned by a third party, i.e. a tower company. Two, you can lease some raw land and build your own tower on it. And the third is you can lease space on a structure, a building or water tank or whatever the case may be. So I think, if you've read any of the financial information coming out of the publicly traded tower companies this year, they've had better than forecasted earnings, no question this year, and they directly say it was because of LTE and WiMAX. And no question about that. So you're going to see the tower companies doing quite well. But as has already been alluded to a number of times this morning, the picocell's coming, the DAS is coming, and it's a lot easier. You've got a lot more flexibility about where you place a picocell, and that's going to change a little bit of the negotiations. What it boils down to is the approach the carriers take. Historically, it has always been about time, speed, go, 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 go. I think you can do time and speed. I honestly believe it can be done. You can do it fast and take time to negotiate well and get a good lease. And picocells or smaller cell sites with lower rad centers, you've got the flexibility. It's going to change that. Now, if he's got a tower and you've got to go on it and it's in the right place and it's zoned and permitted and gets you to market quicker, go on it. And he's got the land. When I say he, I mean the landlords have the strength in that negotiation, but that's a good business decision to do it. But in the urban and dense urban areas, I think you're going to see a lot more flexibility about where the sites go. And I'm hoping that the carriers take the time to negotiate and pay us meaning MD7 and SIDAC companies, to negotiate those really well and smart. I think there's a lot of flexibility in there with 2.4 million, if that's the right number. I always say it's going to double or triple. If it goes up 10x, I'm even more happy.
Somewhere close to half of their modifications have included a backhaul requirement. And it's a significant issue because if there isn't a high-speed backhaul system available at a tower site, it is going to bog the system down. And all the money they're putting into the 4G upgrade is going to be eroded away by a slower backhaul. So you can't really have a robust system operating at 4G if you have a backhaul system that's based on T1 lines. That just does not work in today's society. You need at least a fiber line or some kind of a microwave backhaul.
The large tower companies, you would assume they would have the upper hand in these negotiations because they're adding equipment and they know they don't want to, they don't want to have the carrier, they know the carrier's cost to leave that site is very expensive. So they figure we can hold them up for this. But the reality is that they have the same concerns John has. They don't want to lose any tenants. They don't want to end up having a tower that's making them money to losing them money. And the carriers will walk if the negotiations become unreasonable. Long term, the American Tower, Crown, or Subcarrier Communications wants the carrier to view them favorably. If you get put into, as a tower company, if you were put into a box that said they are not reasonable to work with, that can have a devastating effect even on a business as large as Crown. It doesn't matter. They want to make sure that their customer is happy. And if they're not, it can. We've definitely seen situations where a player in the industry was unreasonable and it had a negative impact. And so I don't think that happens. The perception would be that it would be very terrible. I have not had that experience.